The mission of FSU Coach is to prepare and equip the next generation of coaches and sports professionals with best practices and current research to enable them to pursue excellence. We have two academic programs, the online graduate certificate, which is 4 classes, and also a 10-class master's in athletic coaching. Our graduate certificate and master's program can be started at any time, either the summer, fall, or spring. All of our classes have the word coach or coaching in them, and they're taught by coaches for coaches.
The types of classes that we offer focus on the athlete as a whole person. We focus on the theory and practice, the research, the helping skills, even some of the mental performance behind what it goes into being an athlete. I came to FSU Coach because I truly believed in the mission and the purpose of the program.
I think I have my dream job being a head coach at Florida State, but I know there's always more ways that I can help my athletes and better prepare as a coach, so I thought joining this master's program would help me learn different ways to attack my job. If you're interested in going into coaching or joining the FSU Coach program, I would just say don't even think about it and do it.
Well, hello everybody. Welcome to FSU Coach Live. My name is Tim Backhurst, and today's guest comes from the other side of the world. It's early morning in Guam. It is Doug Palmer, the athletic director for the University of Guam. Doug, thank you so much for joining me. If you wouldn't mind, just give us a little bit of background of how you ended up where you are today.
Okay, well, thank you, Tim, for having me on. This actually proves that things like LinkedIn do work since we connected through
That's right.
One of the social media things. Well, basically, I ended up here. Well, my quick story would be, at least with my Florida State connection, I went to Florida State to get my master's degree way back in 1984. I actually was an assistant softball coach at FSU their first 2 years of fast pitch. I worked for Coach Graff, Joanne Graff. I guess that's back in 1984 and 85 when I was an assistant softball coach there. I then became the head softball coach at the University of West Florida over in Pensacola. I literally spent about 20 years there. And then I actually moved to the other side of the U.S. to Seattle, where I worked at Shoreline Community College as their head athletic director for about 8 years. And then I actually saw the University of Guam was looking for an athletic director. I saw it on, I think, Indeed.com. I saw it once, but that kind of intrigued me. So I actually applied for the position and I got the job. I was the only off-island person to apply for the job. So I interviewed via Zoom or whatever we were using eight years ago or so. I got the job and I came on out, and I'm getting very close to my end of my 7th year here. So it's been a very interesting journey here, and the journey will continue.
Yeah, very interesting story. I'm curious. We typically don't go, oh, look, there's a job on the other side of the world. I'll throw my name in the hat. What was the rationale for just that kind of radical change?
Well, I love Seattle, but 9 months out of the year, it's pretty cloudy, drizzly, and I thought maybe something in the Western Pacific where it was 85 to 90 degrees every day of the year would be a very interesting change. So it was mainly just for that. It was I wanted to go somewhere where a little bit different climate, and of course I was born and raised in South Carolina, and I spent well over 20 years in the state of Florida. Although northern Florida most certainly is not a tropical paradise every day of the year, but I was used to more warmer weather and a little more sunshine, and so I just decided to apply. Didn't have any idea what I was getting myself into, but I like challenges. And I think actually one of my biggest goals in my life was to try to start an athletic program basically from scratch. Mm-hmm. And while the University of Guam had athletics in their past, they hadn't had athletics in about 13 to 14 years, and they were bringing it back in a program called Good to Great at the University of Guam. And that it just gave me an opportunity to basically start an athletic program back over again. And that was kind of, like I said, that was a challenge that I was really always looking for, is to try to find a startup program. And, I got it out here.
Tell us a little bit about what it's like being an AD in Guam. It's not a big island. It doesn't have a large population. How do you compete? What sports do you have? How do you raise funds like you would in the U.S.?
Yeah, well, a lot of it is very similar to the U.S. mainland. Like I said, now I talk like a person from Guam. It's always mainlanders and the mainland. But basically, the University of Guam is the higher education institution for Micronesia. It's the only 4-year institution of note in Micronesia. There's several community colleges spread out during or through Micronesia. Like Palau has a community college. The Northern Marianas Islands have a community college. There's 3 or 4 actually over in the Federated States of Micronesia. But if you want to get a 4-year degree, you either go to the U.S. mainland or you come to the University of Guam. Our dorms here at the University of Guam are not meant for folks from Guam. They're meant for other islands in Micronesia for their students to stay here.
Okay.
Athletic-wise, we do not play other colleges. There's only 3 other colleges on the island, and they do not play varsity athletics in the same way that we try to do. So we basically play in adult leagues against club teams. Now, here at the University of Guam, and I came out of the NCAA and NAI schools, so we do have rules like what's on the U.S. mainland. You got to be in 12 credits. You got to pass 24 credits each year. And we require at least a 2.0 to be eligible. So we basically follow the same rules and regulations that NAI and NCAA follow. So that's kind of the same. But like we're getting ready to start our first sport to play will be actually women's basketball. Will start next week on Wednesday. We're hosting our own league. We call it the Lady Triton Super League. So it is a little bit different now that, like I said, basketball is going to start up in the 1st of September. We do not play the traditional college seasons that you have on the mainland. You play whenever you can get a league together. Our baseball team actually in a league we played in the Guam Major League. And we just got knocked out of our playoffs about a week ago. So we literally played all the way through the summer. But this is the wet season on Guam. The whole league got rained out for 45 days.
Oh my God!
Yeah. So you see we have those type challenges, and we have right now we have 7 or 8 sports. We kind of consider beach volleyball and regular volleyball 2 sports. Although they're coached by the same person. So we have about 8 sports. But we have men's and women's basketball. We have men's and women's soccer. We have, like I said, we just added baseball back. That was one of the proud programs from the past but they hadn't played in 16 years till this year. We added women's rugby last year. And we had something else that I'm fading on right now. Well, like I said, the beach volleyball and the regular volleyball, we added it back. We actually, when I came here in 2016, we actually started women's volleyball up. And our team became the national team. And we couldn't find anybody on the island to play us anymore. So we actually suspended it for a while.
Wow.
But we brought it back now. It's more of the beach version of it. So it's very different. All my coaches are part-time coaches. They basically make about $6,000 to coach. Like I said, when I was at Shoreline Community College, that was basically the same type situation we had there. all my coaches were part-time. Here they're all part-time. But we do expect somewhat of not necessarily a full-time effort, but an effort that goes beyond $6,000. So, but overall, there's no such thing as a college coach on Guam. Basically, in a lot of cases, I only have one person apply. So basically, I have to train them as best I can. Nobody here has real recruiting experience. Guam is a small island of about 155,000 residents, and we try to recruit as much as we can on Guam. We're starting to extend our recruiting out to some of the other islands. Saipan, that's just north of us. We went up and took a trip recently up there, and we've begun recruiting up several kids from there. We had 5 Saipan kids come down and join our teams for this semester, but we're also starting to reach out to other islands like Palau, Yap, Chuuk, to try to bring more student athletes here. And we also do recruit the U.S. mainland, but like I said, you have to find some folks who understand that they're not coming to a U.S. mainland college program. You're coming to what we do here on Guam, and it's just very different than what they may be used to on the U.S. mainland. But like our best men's basketball player is from Texas. So we do get a few folks to come out and play with us, especially if they like the island life.
Yeah. Talk a little bit about the college athletes you have. When we look at college athletics on the mainland, a lot of the players are thinking about pros, thinking about going to, quote, the next level. Do you see that in Guam? Is it a case of these players are going to represent their national team? What is the outcome of the collegiate athletic system in Guam? Or is it more a case of you're really just enjoying your experience being an athlete for a few years and then you're done?
Well, it's a little bit of both, actually. We have some close connections with some of the national teams here on Guam. Since Guam's a territory and not a state, we actually have our own Guam national men's basketball team, women's basketball team. So we actually have a close relationship with several of the national federations, like the Guam Men's Basketball Confederation. They've sent us 2 to 3 players over my time here to play with us because they find somebody with Guam blood somewhere else in the world, and they want them to come here and become part of their program. Mm-hmm. But sometimes, especially if they're young, they're not going to be in the top 10 or 12 for the island's national team. So they'll send them here to play with us to get more experience and stuff while they're still on Guam, while they're on Guam. So we do have close relationships with that. We actually had a men's basketball team that was 30-0 about 3 or 4 years ago, but we actually got 4 U.S. mainland kids to come over to play, but most of them had already here at the University of Guam. We give 5 years of athletic eligibility. If you're working on a master's degree, you can earn a 6th year of eligibility. So we actually try to do some common sense stuff, since most college students these days take 5 years to graduate anyway. So we give 5 years of eligibility. But we had some of those guys come over, and I think most of them had already pretty much finished college. They were working on their masters, but they were really looking to get a pro contract in Asia. And actually, one of them actually did get one from a pro contract in the Philippines. But that's not the normal student athlete that we try to bring over. We're actually trying to bring students who really want to get a degree here. The one young man from Texas wants to be a marine biologist, and we have one of the best marine biology programs in the world here at the University of Guam. He wants to study sharks. Where's a more perfect place than to be out in the middle of the Western Pacific, to do that. So it's a combination. But for the Guam students, I mean, most of them aren't really looking to go pro. Said same thing using men's basketball. The average kid on Guam's 5'8". I mean, we're basically an island of soccer players, at least from the height and stuff. So they're not necessarily worrying about going to the NBA or places like that. We may have a few baseball players that have dreams of doing things like that, and maybe some of the other sports on the island. But overall, they want to get their education and have a chance to continue playing athletics. Like I was talking to you before, there is a dead place for athletics after high school. Then you have to pretty much go into adult leagues. Since University of Guam is the only college on the island that plays any sports, and there's only 3 other colleges on the island, we feel a void. So we have a lot of our students that 18 to 22-year-olds playing in adult leagues, but they're playing against generally 25 to 30, even 35-year-olds in some of these adult leagues, and we're playing against like the national team players on some of the sports that still live on Guam. So it's a very different atmosphere here as far as it goes. We don't really have a rival school. We may have a rival team, like in men's basketball. The Anderson Bombers from Anderson Air Force Base is our biggest rival. We can't very often beat them because they got a bunch of 6'4", 230-pound guys. They may not necessarily be the best basketball players, but they're athletic. So it's hard for us to get a rebound or whatever. So it's a very different place. You have to have a very different attitude when you come here, as far as playing games and things.
Your typical large university in the U.S. It needs some facilities, and so they go out and start soliciting financial assistance from former athletes, from people in the community, and maybe in a year or two we see some new building. I'm curious how you handle finances at the university and provide funding for athletics when your base is much smaller than most institutions on the mainland who have hundreds of thousands of graduates maybe.
Yeah. University of Guam's been around since about the mid-50s. So we do have a decent alumni base, but the university, when I first got here in 2016, was right around 4,000 students. Now, after the pandemic, we're down to about 3,000 students. And our funding, we're considered an auxiliary program. We really don't get any funding from the university. We have a student athletic fee that pays for athletics and the recreation programs. But then, I mean, the one very nice facility that we have as far as athletics is our arena. We do have a 3,000 seat, basically basketball, volleyball arena with 3 basketball courts, and it would be comparable to most really nice Division II or lower Division I facilities on the U.S. mainland. So we have to rent it out. We have to bring in $150,000 a year to meet our budgets. So we basically, as far as the athletic programs go, provide coaches, uniforms, balls, but pretty much we pretty much, again, we just play on the island, and the island's only about 30 miles long and 4 to 10 miles across. So there's not a whole lot of travel we have to do here as far as things go. If it is, you're within 10 miles of anywhere else you go. Like I said, for basketball, we got the best facility on the island. Soccer, we play out at the National Soccer Federation. We play in their leagues, and they've got a pretty nice AstroTurf facility. And we just played in the Guam Major League. We played at the Paseo Stadium, which is an on-the-water facility that's very nice to look at. It needs some work, as many things here on Guam. The facility's kind of fallen out of being a top-level facility. They need lights. They need a new scoreboard, new sound system. But it's still an okay facility for us to play at. We play our women's rugby on our own soccer rugby field here on campus. Again, it's not much. It's just basically an open grass area that we mark off. But like I said, we got a $1 million tax break for anybody who wants to build athletic facilities here on the University of Guam. So we continue to try to look for somebody that would like to do that. We would love to get a baseball field and a new and a softball field and some other facilities here. So hopefully in our long range plans, we got nice little drawings of what it would look like. So hopefully in the near future that potentially can happen if we can find somebody who wants to invest in that. So it's still pretty much very much like the U.S. mainland as far as that goes. Just have to find, but there's just not, as you can tell, there's just not a whole lot of money on Guam, or it's a small population of money that everybody on the island is trying to tap into. I mean, we actually have to compete with the university. We have a main endowment here that's always looking to get more money into it. So, but there are some folks here who want to give to athletics. They have the U.S. Philosophy somewhat towards that, or they have a love of basketball or baseball or whatever. So we do get a few boosters that are helping us out, but we just don't have anybody at the moment that can build a multi-million-dollar athletic facility right now. But hopefully in the future we may find somebody, or we work a partnership out with Gov Guam at some point to maybe build something here, because we are one of the few areas that we actually have a decent amount of space to build. Space here on Guam, while not at a super premium, is at a premium.
You've worked at large universities. You've worked at smaller universities. Now here you are in Guam. What are some of the challenges you face in this position that are unique to your situation?
Well, number one, Guam has a different culture. It is very family oriented and actually very work oriented. Like I said, there is a void after high school athletics. Most people, they either go to college, so they either come to University of Guam or they go to the U.S. mainland. If you go to a private school here on Guam, you tend to go to the U.S. mainland to go to school. Some people go to the Philippines. If you're in public school, you usually end up here at the University of Guam or maybe go to the U.S. mainland. But the challenges is, like at my last school at Shoreline Community College in Seattle, for baseball, the only day we could play at home or close to home, we had a high school place we used was on Sundays. So we had to play on Easter. We had to play on Mother's Day. And of course we did let all the moms in free, had cookouts after the games for everybody. But here on Guam, you can't play on Easter. You can't play on Mother's Day. This is an island of 90% Catholics, and it is a somewhat religious island. So nobody's coming on Easter to a baseball game in the afternoon. I mean, our players aren't coming. And there's very big family-oriented things here. Like the first basketball team, we had one 6'4" kid from Guam on our team. Grandma cooked family dinner every Sunday, and he had to be at Grandma's dinner. He couldn't, and we played, of course, on Sunday. We were in a Sunday basketball league, so he had to miss the Sunday games because Grandma said, he had to be at Sunday dinner. It wasn't that Grandma could come to the games and cook dinner afterwards or before. He had to be there. So you face those challenges, and I think the biggest challenge is the work. At Shoreline Community College, all our kids have part-time jobs, but we would give them an athletic schedule of games and practices. They would take it to their boss, and the boss would work their working schedule around our practice and game schedule. Here on Guam, we have to work around the kids' part-time job schedules. So we very rarely, if ever, have a full team at practice. And we have sometimes kids missing because of work. Work here is more important than college athletics. And my first 2 years here, I battled that. I tried to change that. I lost badly. So we've adapted and adjusted. to do the best we can as far as getting kids to practice and make sure we try to get everybody at games. But work here is more important than college athletics. And it's just something that you really wouldn't realize till you got here. And we really tried to change the attitude. We lost. So we now adapt and adjust to the students' work schedules and things. And we just gotten used to, we're not going to have everybody at practice every day.
FSU Coaches is all about helping coaches, developing coaches, which in turn help athletes get better as athletes and people. I'm curious where you see the needs in Guam when it comes to coach education and development.
Well, like I said, we got some good fundamental coaches on the island, but we really don't have college coaches. My men's basketball coach, his actually wife works at Anderson Air Force Base. He's from New York, and he's worked in AAU a lot, so he has an idea about recruiting. So he's been trying to recruit more U.S. Student athletes to come over and play. But most of the coaches have no experience at recruiting at all. Again, I'm trying to teach them how to recruit. But we're still almost more tryout based than we are going out and recruiting players in the high schools. But we're getting a little bit better at it. But that's the biggest. If we had a training, something that basically teaches the basics of recruiting. Like I said, most of my coaches are pretty good fundamental coaches. So I'm not necessarily worried about them teaching the X's and O's of other sports. But the other stuff, fundraising, recruiting, those type aspects of college coaching is to be the part that we would definitely, if we had some training, we would love to get some training on that. Like I said, it's 4 a.m. here. Most of the people on Guam, if they are in education, they're doing U.S. Mainland trainings, seminars, and things. So we're very used to being here at 2 o'clock in the morning doing these type things. So that's not something that would really slow us down. But if we had some options for that, most certainly I think some of my coaches would try to take advantage of that.
Well, I want to be thoughtful of your time. I know it's early in the morning. You've got a long day ahead of you. If somebody watching this at another point in time on our podcast or on YouTube has a question for you, what's the best way for them to get in touch?
Probably send me an email at Palmer, PALMERD, at triton.uog.edu. I will answer it generally within 1 day. So I'm almost always here every 7 days a week. So this is kind of, I like to tell most folks, for an athletic director or an athletic college coach, your job's a lifestyle. It's not a job. It's a lifestyle. So I'm pretty much around most of the time. Anything going on in the building, I'm here. Like tomorrow night, we have Miss Saigon musical production in our arena. So we will be here for that and for that as well.
Well, Doug, thank you so much for joining me. And just a reminder, everybody watching, to subscribe, like, wherever you're watching this, whether it be on our podcast or on YouTube. But on behalf of myself, Tim Baghurst, and Doug Palmer, thanks so much for watching.
Well, thanks, Tim, for having me. This was a great experience. And hopefully someday I'll come back and hopefully tell you some things that we've accomplished.
I hope so, too. Thank you.
All righty.